How has the first day gone for Ghislaine?
Poorly, but, it's sort of the prosecution's turn right now. So we're meant to be on their side, and we'll have to see how things unfold. So the first two witnesses were the pilot of the so-called Lolita Express, though some have denied knowing it was called that. The pilot who said, I was always in the cockpit and the door was always shut and I never saw anything. All I did was fly the plane. I never saw anything. And poor Larry's up there like, oh my God. He basically said he never saw sexual activities, never saw sex toys, never saw anything other than very well-known celebrities, sometimes boarding the plane, but usually he was kept behind a closed door and knows nothing. The prosecution used him to get in a certain photographic evidence and logs of flights and things like that they will need later. I don't think he was so much a witness about, it's interesting that Prince Andrew was on the plane and Bill Clinton was on the plane. He said Donald Trump, long before he ran for office, was on the plane and so on. They're not making a case against those guys, but it's some flavor, certainly, because their next witness was really the bombshell witness. And it was a woman, girl at the time, who went by the name Jane. The four accusers expected to testify are all going to use pseudonyms, we're told. And so Jane was laying the foundation for how she viewed Jeffrey Epstein. And all of the women, I think, are going to testify that his access to celebrities and people of the caliber like Prince Andrew, is in part what made them believe he was a legitimate businessman, that it was an honor to be in his presence, that they could trust him, so it does all tie together. But Jane's testimony was awful. And, we'll see what the defense does with her. The defense has made clear they're going to say this is a money grab. She wants to file a civil lawsuit, against the Epstein fund. And she sees, she's got dollar signs in her eyes. They pointed out that Jane is a professional actress these days, and they accused her of doing that in their opening statement yesterday in this trial. But the first person testimonial of Jane, Dan, was terrible for Ghislaine Maxwell. She talked about being 14, a middle schooler in Michigan, which is nowhere near Palm Beach, where Jeffrey Epstein lived. And that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine were walking along. She was walking her dog, Ghislaine was, while this little girl was at camp learning how to sing. And he saw her, took a shining to her. They struck up a conversation, Ghislaine and Jeffrey, with this young child. And before they knew it, they had put together the fact that she, too, the young Jane, was from Palm Beach. They got her number. And he called her mother and said, I know everyone, I know agents. And, she should come over and I could really make things happen for her. It's something he repeated to Jane herself. It's just so clear how this guy, whatever you think about Ghislaine Maxwell, they're making their case. Jeffrey Epstein was a serial predator. That's very clear. And so they got her down to the Palm Beach mansion repeatedly. And this now woman, this happened in, it was 1994, so it's been some time, talked about how he lured her into the pool house, said, follow me. Brought her into the pool house. And before she knew it, he had taken off his clothes and was pulling her down on him. And she said, without getting too graphic, it was the first time she'd ever seen a man below the waist. She's a teenager. She was shocked. Just like that, it was over. This is sort of what he did. He did have allegedly have sex with her, depending on the situation, non-consensual sex, meaning rape, with some of these girls. But usually his thing was he wanted them to massage him, and then he would pleasure himself in front of them or on them. And that's what she said happened to her. And she provided in great detail. Second time was at Jeffrey Epstein's bedroom, where she said Ghislaine lured her in. The two of them, Ghislaine and Jeffrey, were fondling each other, taking off their clothes. And then she was folded in, young Jane, a teenager, underage, 14. And so go, sex toys. She said, once every 2 weeks, I was there. They were doing this to me. They had a bizarre relationship with one another. It was ongoing abuse. I was groomed. They'd take me on shopping trips. Again, the promise of introducing her to an agent to make her a star. Think about it. She's a kid, right? You believe that nonsense. And she's lived in fear of him and with shame for many, many years and wasn't going to come forward until he died. Apparently, she was a late arrival to the Jeffrey Epstein accuser train. Something that's going to be used against her by the defense. They're going to say, again, it's about money. But boy, oh boy, it was a powerful testimonial. We don't have cameras in the courtroom, so I didn't see or hear it myself. But reading it after the fact, pretty detailed, pretty specific, and pretty jarring.